Talofa lava. Kia ora. Welcome, Archbishop Sione. Thank you for being on this podcast.
Talofa. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
You were ordained and installed in 2023. How has that time been for you?
I guess it was not really what I expected it. Even though I presented often myself to the ministry and all along, growing up as a kid, just like any normal kid, you can dream of big things. But as I grew into the ministry, I kind of think of there are certain stages of the ministry that's where I just want to be for various reasons and for understanding my strength and what I can offer the church. But I'm very much a practical person who loves being engaged with people in ministry. I never expect to be a bishop. It is a privilege and a blessing. The second thing is that it reminds me of how much I needed God and the Spirit of God, because it was God who has called me into these positions and into this ministry.
Is there anything that you draw on to help you in your leadership?
Wow, there was quite a lot of people that have helped shape my life as I grew up. There are three people that have guided me through. One is Bishop Jabez Bryce. The other one is a fellow called Sunipa Tevi, an uncle of mine who has been a priest and ordained priest, and where I looked up to him. And the third person is my mother. She had a lot of influence in me, in taking me to morning services almost every morning, even though somehow I struggle to wake up and go. They breathe into me that desire that this is to be endorsed, that this is what I wanted to be. And their guidance all throughout have empowered me never to lose focus, and also to conduct myself in a way that it's the preparations for what I wanted to serve in the ministry. Yes.
Could you give us an overview of the Diocese of Polynesia and all the countries within it?
I regard the Diocese of Polynesia as the largest diocese in the world in terms of square kilometers, but it's all about the ocean. The land mass is very, very small. But the Diocese of Polynesia consists of the whole of Fiji and its territory, Tonga, Samoa, American Samoa, Cook Islands still in the jurisdiction of the diocese. And they make up the geographical area of the diocese. Significantly, the people who make up the diocese in Fiji is shaped by descendants of the black birding in those days, where the majority of our people Anglican people in the diocese in Fiji are descendants of the Solomons and the Vanuatu that were brought across to work in copra, cocoa, sugarcane. And they make up the bulk of the people of our diocese in Fiji, whereas in Tonga is so much dominated by Tongans and the Samoans, even though in American Samoa. But I guess in that, we are able to extend mission because of the people whom we have. They are not really indigenous. The building of our then schools all around the diocese enables us to bring these people together, find identity for themselves, and then it's another way of extending the mission of the church. I say that because the schools all our Indo-Fijian clergy, they were converted from Hinduism to Christianity through our schools. Our Melanesians, even though majority were Anglicans, the non-Anglicans came into the ministry of the churches through the school that was established by us. And school is in Tonga. The dominant churches in Tonga is the Free Wesleyan Church, the Roman Catholics. Yet we have about 95% of the Tongan clergy, they were non-Anglicans, but through the schools, they became Anglicans. And I guess it was relevant then to establish those schools as a way of forming and strengthening the populations of the people in the Diocese of Polynesia, and now extended to the Polynesian who find home here in Aotearoa.
It must be difficult for you to wear different hats across the islands.
It is. But I guess if I may say that one of the secrets of me being happy with the geographical context, that despite that we are made up of 4 different island states, I have blood connections to these island states. I had the privilege of being placed into these different islands and serve the ministry there, understand their culture. But because I have family connections that rooted in all these different islands, managing to speak their languages gives me hope and assurance and make the connections in those relationships much deeper. Other than knowing that those relatives of mine in Samoa, in Tonga, and in Fiji, it gives me a sense of belonging. So despite the different hats, there's always something that I find common, feel comfortable with. But I find it as a strength in terms of exercising my ministry in these different areas, speaking the language, understanding the culture, and knowing that I'm just talking to my uncles and aunties. It also has its own challenges. Having to think Fijian and speak Fijian on issues that only exist in Fiji, whereas in Samoa, there are kind of challenges that the church faces, and it's in a different form. So as it is in Tonga, the social structure in Tonga, where you have the royal family, the monarchy, and you have nobles, and you have common peoples. It's how you present yourself in different languages at different level, how you engage everybody at different levels, yet we just one family who makes us who we are. Knowing that I'm Samoan, knowing that I'm Tongan, knowing that I'm Fijian. Whatever the challenges that come, there is a sense of comfort in understanding things about the context in which I find myself located at a particular time. Yeah.
Do you mentally prepare yourself before you travel to another country? For example, if you travel from Fiji and you're flying over to Samoa.
The preparation is that you have to adjust yourself culturally as you enter each village, to be engaged with people. They have their own protocol. They have their own spirituality, and it's about like the land, unland. I'm Fijian myself and Samoan myself. To speak in the language, the kind of protocol that involves, even in worship, it's different. But I have been in the ministry for some time and consistently visit to all of this part of the diocese. So it's getting to be more natural, yet I'm mindful that they are different. in that particular time in the context where I'm in. So there's a lot of preparation. Sometimes I find myself got mixed up. Whether to think Fijian in a Samoan sermon or how to do that. But I drive that as a strength because I can use illustrations from a Tongan perspective, a Tongan cultural point of view, which may be new to the Samoan or to Fijian, as a strength that would enhance the closeness of the different island nations that make up our diocese. And it's also something that we can share, and acknowledging that we may be one diocese, but we are made up of 4 different kind of people all together in their own right as people and as a nation or a state.
I've been to your cathedral in Suva where the service was held in many different languages. Is it the same when you travel to Samoa or Tonga?
I guess it depends on what occasions and what celebrations that we focus in the church. It's very hard to do a diocesan function, and it's only appropriate in the cathedral because everybody comes. And it rarely that we bring people together from all over the diocese. So the services and all the services have to be in the languages. To go to Samoa, the service is all in Samoan or in English. Even in Tonga, unless if there are special celebrations in relations to the diocese or the Three Tikanga Church. And then we have to use the languages of all of the island state in the diocese, even to try to find appropriate Maori language to represent Tikanga Maori if it is a Three Tikanga Church celebrations, depending on the context of where it will be held. But it's always appropriate in Fiji because it's Fiji itself is made up of indigenous Fijian, descendants of Melanesians, either Vanuatu or the Solomons. You have Indo-Fijian, and we have Rotuman, so it's multicultural together. And there are the Fijian who speak English as a first language. So it may be in the Suva area a normal experience to have different languages. Few of our parishes in Suva, the readings for Sunday, the psalm can be read in Hindi. The first reading can be read in Fijian. The epistle can be read in Tongan. And because of the multicultural atmosphere in those areas, we do that and use those other languages. Even at some point in celebrating Holy Communion and Eucharist, you start off with English, hear the words through these different languages, and at some point you recite part of the consecrations in Thanksgiving, either in Fijian or Samoan. Keep in touch with the culture of the people, and it reminds us of who we are and how complex we are as a diocesan family.
Is there any liturgical differences across the Pacific Islands that stands out to you?
That's a funny question, but that's a very important and rich question. It's an opportunity to celebrate our diversity and how to contextualize worship according to the culture, the biblical symbols and theological symbols that you find in its culture. Yes, it's different to do a Samoan service. Even though the prayer book is very clear on the structure of its content, but the power of words can make worship different in the different contexts. And it's those words and those languages, they possess or they hold something of the spirituality of that particular context. To do a traditional Tongan service in a Tongan language, and sometimes the English words in our prayer book doesn't really unpack the deep spirituality of the Tongan way of asking for forgiveness, asking for healing. And there are special cultural terms and symbols that can be used. One time I was challenged by our people in Samoa because of the liturgy, and when it comes to the confessions, we use the concept of ifoga, asking for forgiveness in the church, where we bring the Samoan fine mat and cover our heads, and we were totally invisible, depending on the grace of those that we ask forgiveness from, that they come and remove it. Those symbols plays something more powerful than the normal confession and the absolutions that is offered and delivered, especially from a cultural perspective. To bring offertory, and you bring in Fijian somebody to lead those who bring the elements and do the collections with a tabua. That is what every Fijian can offer for everything. And the symbol of that is more than just bringing monetary offertory. It is about presenting one's own culture, one's own life, one's own family, one's own land, and place it before God as gifts, and to be reminded that those gifts are to be represented to God. So, yeah, you go and sit in a Tongan service, or you go and sit in a Samoan service. It's totally different than sitting in Suva, where most of the services are done in English, and they have different powerful message that embraces those who worship. But I guess those cultural symbols, the languages and way of worship, adds to the depth of the relationship of the land, ocean, the atmosphere, when we make ourselves present in a normal service, Tom, or out in the islands.
Has there been any situation where you have felt very emotional or overwhelmed when seeing something like that?
So many times. Words cannot express, but it's just holding up symbolic cultural symbols, and it speaks for itself. I run out of words, just tears coming out from my eyes. Same time it embraces everybody who are there. We have the same emotions. Nothing was said, but we are connected deeply, spiritually, by just holding something in my hand in the altar that speaks for everything that we offer and why we come to that, to receive God's grace. Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you about Te Pouhere, which is the revised constitution of the church, which happened in 1992. In 1992, that's when the Three Tikanga Church was created. Tikanga Pasifika, Tikanga Māori, and Tikanga Pākehā. Have you seen the church fully live into embracing each tikanga equitably?
If I could start by saying is that, the Te Pouhere is God's given gift, whether it's a vision, but it's gift with the intention that could draw us as one people, that could unite us as a community of faith, that could bring us together to reflect who Christ is as the head of the church. And that is to me, one of the greatest gifts of knowing and understanding what Te Pouhere stands for. It brings us to realize that we are a diverse group of people with the desire to be unified in the Spirit of God and God's grace alone. We want to be unified in all things that we do, but yet we have different ways of living it out or trying to showcase what does Te Pouhere, this loving embrace of God, constitutionally is trying to bring us together in recognitions of the Spirit of God and the grace working in making us what was desired by God, I guess, in the Gospel of St. John, that we may all be one, just as the Father and Jesus are one. It doesn't mean that we have to be one in terms of being dominated by another, but it's the recognitions of our uniqueness as God's given gift. It's the recognition of our own diversity and our own culture and spirituality, which is embedded at the very depth of who we are. But also, it should provide a space in which I feel that Te Pouhere is embedded in. And that space is for us to come to an acceptance of who we are as culture and defined by our culture, and who we are as people working together, to walk together, to reflect the love of Christ. The model, I guess, of who we are as a Three Tikanga Church. And Te Pouhere is bring that to light. I guess the only other thing that is challenging us are the very thing that we need to continue to work on in accepting one another for what they are and respecting them. For this is how God has gifted them to each other. And I think that to me personally, the Te Pouhere is trying to highlight that, bring us to a realization of we are all taonga to each other. But in order for that taonga to continue to flourish, we ourselves need to identify what it is that we need to set aside for the goodness of all. Equity, we have been given equal space before God and with each other. But it doesn't mean just one particular thing.
You were known in the Diocese of Polynesia for wanting to go out and visit the parishes and parishioners to hear directly from them some of the feedback that they have for the church or in their lives. Right now, what are some of them saying?
If I could come somewhat, because of the geographical context of and the demand on the role of diocesan bishop automatically become Archbishop and Primate of our Three Tikanga Church. We had this saying, even through the past leadership of the diocese, I was even labeled as the Flying Bishop. Just like we called our Fijian rugby team the Flying Fijian, hardly any time back at home. I decided that on my second year, now in a couple of months, that I need first to restructure our diocese, delegate some of the responsibilities that is vested on me as an Archbishop and as a diocesan bishop amongst laity and among clergy of the diocese, but they allow me to be present in all the island countries. I'm also a vicar of 2 different parishes in Fiji, and I must make sure that I'll be attending to that, other than just vicar in terms of just words. But I make myself present. I organize that I visit the most remote areas of the diocese. And for them, it is an empowering experience which the focal point of the diocese is rested on me as the bishop. And then they feel that the diocese is with them. It's no longer distant, remote, insular, but the diocese is in the parishes, in the outbacks of Fiji and in Tonga, in Samoa, American Samoa. So I look forward to making not just myself, but Archbishop Don and Archbishop Justin presence. So it's not more than I'm just a diocesan bishop, but I also represent Tikanga Māori and Tikanga Pākehā. And it's an opportunity that we continue to encourage and to remind our people. I am here also to represent Archbishop Don, Archbishop Justin. And I look forward for every opportunity that we have some of bishops, clergy from Tikanga Māori and Tikanga Pākehā in the islands, because I did an ordination in Tonga. I did confirmations, and I think the confirmation we did last year was about 54 candidates. I just happened to have the Bishop of Manawatewheke that just retired. They were just happened to be in Tonga with the Benson Board, I think, or Mission Board. And then there were two other bishops. And then the three of us were there. And our people embraced to see that three different bishops representing three different tikanga, yet exercising a ministry that Te Pouhere and the structure of our diocese make it real by us, not only just ordaining, but also confirming. It's a real embodiment of who we are as a Three Tikanga Church. It's good to be a flying bishop, but the most important thing is that the people feel closer. And I want to make sure in my ministry that that will continue.
What are some of the spiritual challenges coming out of the Diocese of Polynesia?
There is a lot of social issues. There is a worry, a concern, and they are called by leaders of the countries within the diocese for immediate actions. They also call upon church leaders that their prophetic voice to be heard. We were challenged in Tonga by the Queen of Tonga. We had an audience, and she was asking that church leaders are not delivering or saying what needed to be said to help in the national effort to fight social issues that faces families, violence, and it's getting to a stage that it is very alarming. And that's the same in Fiji, same in Samoa. The church leaders and the churches can play a very significant role because of the people in the communities who belong to the churches and the trust that they have in the churches. It's the same thing that happened in the Diocese of Polynesia. So it's not just a diocesan or Anglican issues, but it's a national issue that call for the church leaders to stand together to address. For the Diocese of Polynesia, the challenges also is about climate change, which is for everyone in the region. Drugs is a pandemic in the island. But we are trying to address those challenges, standing and rising up together as a church amongst other church leaders to find a way to face these challenges. I guess for us, climate change is, we develop a program in which to help prepare communities. It is a toolkit so that community leaders use it to prepare people for natural disasters, build resilience in communities, but also provide data and informations that could help also churches, communities, on identifying numbers and those who are vulnerable and what kind of support that can be delivered and be given to them. We even work together with our Three Tikanga Church to build and to put pre-position supplies in all the communities and most of our Anglican parishes. And it's not just for the Anglicans, but it's also to cater for the challenges that the whole community, and this is in Fiji, in Tonga, and in Samoa also. We haven't reached American Samoa. We still rely on Uncle Sam to cater for them, but we are moving into to empower our Anglican people, but the community where our churches are located in American Samoa and all around.
What gives you hope for the future?
As long as we have young generations coming in, they are well versed with technologies. The hope is that they continue to build upon those skills and knowledges and how they quickly adapt to all the latest discoveries, innovations for positive delivering of ministry, either spiritually, socially, even culturally. And that could give us a glimpse of why we are called to be church. It's not about what's going on inside the building, but it's about the Christ-like relationship of going hand in hand with one another, attending, caring, and loving for one another. And that is the greatest hope that we have. We have empowered our young people now, and my focus in my ministry now is to ensure that we build capacity, empower the present and the future generations, finding educational opportunities, going back to indigenous wisdoms and methodologies of becoming a community with sharing stories, working together. And there are various other, let's say, projects or movements that have been rippled from our young people as an Anglican Church to the other churches and to villages. It's about empowering whole community, because everybody got a God-given gift. And for those who are not, whom we think that they are not good, with respect to them in classrooms, it's amazing how they build community. It's amazing how they plan to ensure that there is food security for the whole community. And it's amazing how they utilize and employ indigenous knowledge to care for the ocean, provide food from the ocean to the communities. And they discover new skills. The essence of it is Christ, but it has to be practically lived out. And I guess my role, empower the priest, walk alongside God's people so that they naturally share what God has gifted people in the diocese and the region, that we have a responsibility for each other.
What advice would you give people for living out peace?
Well, peace can be defined by so many people, by so many things, in so many ways. But peace is just being part of each other. We started a project in Samoa, recognizing those, even those who just sleep on the street. They say there's a different peace that they escape from, exercise that freedom in just whatever they wanted to do. But engaging them in doing some other community work, even clean the roadside of the city of Sua, make them feel that they're worth doing something. So their terminology and understanding of peace is different. It becomes having to do something for the benefit of whoever is lying next to you. Peace is not just the absence of war. It is not about war. Peace is all about at one with each other. And that is a great force that comes out from each other to bring to a world where, everything is rushing. And people think that is the normal way of life. Maybe what we call Pacific time is what we need.
Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much, Archbishop Sione.
Thank you very much indeed. Now we are at peace.